joining us right now is Laura Richards. She's a criminal behavioural analyst. She's also the former head of the Homicide Prevention Unit at New Scotland Yard and is now the founder of Paladin, the world's first national stalking advocacy service. I'm delighted to say she joins us. Thank you very much indeed, Laura, for taking the time.
Hi there, good to be here.
Look, I mean, I'm going to say thankfully, I think it's a good thing this man has been shot dead, as opposed to what on earth he would have done to the people inside the house, maybe the woman he was stalking. Now, we don't know if it's the same woman involved in this magistrates court case. We don't know if they knew each other, but it is often the case that cases go to court again and again. I've been a journalist for many years, and for so much of that time, stalking, harassment wasn't taken seriously. We had changes in the law. It was supposed to make things better. But yet again, we've seen someone clearly a risk to a woman. Action is not taken. When he is taken to court and convicted, he just gets a suspended sentence and a few hours of the community service. Why is this still happening?
Well, it is extremely alarming, but it is commonplace, like you say. And I was one of the people that spearheaded the stalking law and put many victims before Parliament so that parliamentarians could hear the risks and dangers of stalking and families whose daughters have been murdered. So the stalking law came in. Now, this individual should have been put before the Crown Court for the Section 4A stalking of the woman whose bedroom he broke into. And as you said, that is absolutely terrifying. But it's not just that he broke into her bedroom, it was the vivid sexual fantasies that he was talking to her about. And that means that he was a predatory stalker, the most dangerous type of stalker. And I did have a campaign to amend the Section 4A, the more serious stalking offence, so that the maximum sentence was 10 years. Yeah. So there really does need to be a review as to why he was put before a magistrate's court when he was the most dangerous type of stalker.
They didn't have the power in the magistrate's court to sentence him to that. But again, we see these cases where women go to the police again and again, nothing's done. When it does eventually go to court, it's suspended, even if there is an order, an injunction against entering the road. When the man does enter the road, and it is also women, there are also women stalkers, but it has been a bigger problem with men and female victims in particular, that when the man does enter the road, and she reports it, nothing happens then. Whereas surely that should be an instant into jail, for a number of years. You know the deal, you're not allowed to enter it, the court has told you that, and nothing happens. Is there still a lack of willingness to take this seriously? Is it because we don't have space in our jails? What is stopping the courts and indeed the police from taking the action that victims of stalking and harassment were promised?
Well, one, most victims don't tend to be believed or taken seriously. And that's why I'm saying that this was the most serious type of stalking. There are two types of stalking offences, the Section 2A and the 4A. If this was heard as a 4A, it would have gone to a Crown Court, and the maximum sentence is 10 years. But and that's why, for me, this is still a major issue, that why was it heard at a magistrate's court? It's normally because it's cheaper and quicker. So it's getting stalkers sentenced for the right type of offence, a Section 4A, which is the more serious, and they do need a psychological intervention. So this 16-week suspended sentence, what's the message to him? The message is it's not serious. What's the message to the victim? It's we're not taking it seriously. Yeah. And yes, there is this issue about jails and prisons being full, but the point is getting the right people in prison. Yes. And Bryce Hodgson should have been in prison. And yes, I believe that the police took the right decision at the point where he is armed with multiple crossbows, a sword, a hatchet, full body armour. I mean, this is just absolutely terrifying for all of those residents, whether this is the same victim or a different victim.
And that's the thing.
Most stalkers stalk multiple people.
Oh, do they? That's very interesting, because again, we don't know whether the attended victim of this man was the others, or whether he had become obsessed with other people. But this is the thing. This seems to be a problem that's getting worse, or are we talking about it more? But I'm wondering if, again, following people on the internet, mobile phones and all of that, social media, that actually, and people often spending, let's face it, an awful lot more time alone just with the computers, as one of his former flatmates has said, that this is kind of engendering that level of obsession, and that is making these people more dangerous.
Well, I don't think we talk about it enough. We've had Gracie Spinks, who was stalked and murdered by Michael Sellers. He had a whole armoury of weapons, knives, axe, hammers, things that were in a bag right by Gracie's field where she kept her horse, and then he kills her. just weeks later. So I don't feel that we talk about this enough, of just how dangerous some of these men, and it is predominantly men, most of the stalkers who go on to kill women, we are talking about men. So this is malviolence. This goes back to Sarah Everard, all the cases that we've had in the past, Claire Bernal, Alice Ruggles. You know, it's really understanding just how dangerous stalkers can be and ensuring that when they do come to notice, because I'm sure Bryce Hodgson was known before he broke into a woman's house. You don't just do that as your first offence.
No, exactly.
So it's ensuring the police use the intelligence that they have and understand that this isn't low-level nuisance behaviour. This is dangerous stuff.
And again,
like Bryce Hodgson needs a psychological intervention.
If action had been taken, he would probably still be alive now, maybe able to get help and change his life. I had a stalker many, many years ago, I would say just on the phone, through my work, someone who got in touch, and I inherited him from someone else who's very much in the public eye. He had threatened to rape and kill her and rape and kill her children. I was able to deal with it, but I was actually, I've got to be honest with you, it was a family member who was able to deal with the issue. Firmly, shall we say, verbally only, but firmly. This man was on the phone constantly. I put my phone on, it was on. He was messaging me. I couldn't get any messages from work. He was just constantly calling me. And it only went on for a couple of weeks when I went straight to the police. The reaction from the police was, why don't you change your mobile phone number? And I said, because I don't want to change my mobile phone number. I don't think that solves the problem, and was able to get police involved. He was later convicted of stalking. Again, no jail term, of course not, and it wasn't for what he'd said to me. I dealt with it very quickly. I wasn't going to take no for an answer. And I was surprised by how intimidated I was. I was a woman living on my own at the time, how scary it was. The fact that there are women who live in this country day in, day out with either a stranger or a former colleague, or in most cases, a former partner, former husband, former boyfriend, or a former date, doing this to them, making threats, sending them stuff, constantly in contact, for sometimes years on end, and nothing is done, I find extraordinary. Why isn't this taken as seriously as other crimes?
Well, I'm sorry to hear about your own experience, Julia.
I'm good with it.
And unfortunately, so many... Well, you did, but you shouldn't have to deal with that. Exactly. And that's the point. At the early stage, it should be identified and the person should be seen as a problem. And this is where I've been campaigning for stalkers to be on the same register as sex offenders. Because they're fixated behaviour, it doesn't just stop with one victim. They go from one victim to the next victim. And that's what I'm trying to prevent, so that we don't have multiple women who are being terrorised and who are in fear. And it shouldn't be up to a family member to intervene. Yes. That's what the police are there for. And the mental health services also have to be provided, but some of these men need to be in prison. And that is, I'm very clear about that. So I really want to get them on the same register as sex offenders, so that they're taken seriously and they're properly risk assessed by police, prison, probation, through MAPA, the multi-agency public protection arrangement. The government reneged on it a couple of years ago. They said that we would get the register, and I'm still campaigning for it now, and it's in the Victims and Prisoners Bill. So I'm hoping people will sign the petition that I've created with many family members and victims, because we really want stalkers to be taken seriously.
Well, Laura, if you're in charge of it all, I think they would be. Laura Richards, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your fantastic work on behalf of victims there. A criminal behavioural analyst, former head of the Homicide Prevention Unit at New Scotland Yard, and now obviously the founder of the Paladin National Stalking Advocacy Service. Thank you for talking to us. Appreciate